is country French style. Wallpaper, antique furniture, but there is a style of cooking as well. That is eating with your finger, easy type of food, you know, that you eat with friends on Sunday afternoon. And this is what we are going to do today. And we start with a classic dessert, which is a caramel custard, a crème caramel au café with coffee. And we've started there to make a caramel for it. And as you can see here, it's sugar and water, which is cooking until it reaches the caramel stage, which is close to now. As it turns color, caramel indicates a color really. And this is what we are going to have here. So you cook your caramel into a saucepan like this. You can actually cook it directly into your oven-proof container if it goes on top of the stove. But as it reaches the right color here, this is what you do. You put it in there, which is going to cool off the caramel, and you slush it around so that the bottom of your container is covered with the caramel that we put here. It has to cool a little bit. And the second part of the recipe, we're going to warm up some milk. I have a cup and a half of milk here. And with this, a couple of tablespoons of sugar. Don't put too much sugar. And we are flavoring it with coffee here. So I'm putting about a teaspoon or so of instant coffee. Now, we used to do those recipes with cream, you know, a lot of cream and a lot of eggs and so forth. We've cut down a great deal nowadays. So even though this is a caramel custard relatively rich, it has only one egg plus one egg yolk. Or rather, one egg plus one egg white. We use only one egg yolk in the recipe for 4. So done with the milk, and this is whole milk. If you use defatted milk or lower type of fat milk, you will even lower your calorie content. In that case here, we have about 120 calories per person. One way of separating eggs, you know, you can break your eggs and separate it this way, that you're sure you have all the egg white in there. Remember that the egg white here is really the albumin, which is going to give you the coagulating thing that you need. I mix my egg and egg yolk in there. I don't want that milk to be too hot, you know, just hot enough actually to melt that instant coffee. And it's about enough now. So I'm going to put that in there. Mix it well. Of course, if that milk was boiling hot here, you would have problem putting your eggs in it because it would cook the egg. So make sure the eggs is lukewarm. To be sure that you don't have any little pieces of eggs on top, we strain that directly on top of the caramel. And notice here that I use a double mesh type of strainer, thick. And that double mesh strainer is very good to take all the little particles in it. This has to cook in a double boiler that is through the heat transfer of water. So the protein, that is the egg white, coagulates very slowly. If it cooks too fast, you're going to have all kind of little air bubble around because it cooked too fast, it starts expanding. So you want to cook it to a slow heat transfer. We put that in a 350-degree oven, and that will cook for about close to an hour. You know, if it goes too fast, the water should not boil around, you know, because if the water boils around, it is going to cook too fast. So make sure the water doesn't boil. If it starts boiling, you can always put a couple of ice cubes around to lower, you know, the temperature of the water. We continue the French style country cooking. It is actually Belgium a great deal. We are doing French fry. And even though the French fry may come from France, in Belgium, this is really the natural dish. And we are going to cook it later, actually, with mussel. And mussel and French fry is typically Belgium, you know. So we have our potatoes. If the potato is peeled, I can leave it in water. It won't discolor it. We cut it into about half-inch slice and across again to do your standard French fry. Sometimes we call, if we do them smaller in France, we call them pommes allumettes, matchstick potato, if they're a bit smaller than that. Then I wash them in water. It takes some of the starch out of it. And what we do in professional kitchen, we cook those ahead. You know, when you have a restaurant and you serve a lot of French fry, don't think that the French fry are cooked at the last moment. Because first, if you cook them at the last moment like this, they will be dry. Dry inside, too crunchy on the outside. So what we do, we pre-cook the French fry. And I have a cup and a half of oil here, not that much, and about 330 degrees. We're going to cook those potatoes in there, so they cook about 4 or 5 minutes until they are cooked, you know, until they are cooked, but white, still, and soft. And this is your first part. You can do that hours ahead, you know. And I have some that I have done here. As you can see, those potatoes are soft. They are cooked now, soft, but they are not crunchy, they are not crispy, and they are white still. And this is what you do. You cover them. You can do that a few hours ahead. At the last moment, you drop them back into very hard oil, then they crisp. The classic way of doing potatoes. And now, at the first course in our recipe, we're doing artichokes. So I want to talk to you about artichokes and show you those beautiful green artichoke specimen. Artichokes is very good, very high in potassium, you know. You have about a third of your daily requirement in one artichoke. Low in calorie, it is about 50 calories, you know, per artichoke. Now the stem like that, you can peel it as I'm doing here and keep it, you see. Even when we cook a classic artichokes, we take the top off. You have to watch those needles, you know, they are kind of, so we take the top off. There is really not much to be used there. And those leaves on the outside here, you can trim them this way so that when you grab them to eat them, you don't puncture your finger, and it looks a little better. That artichoke here that I am doing, I will put that in boiling water. Put a plate on top of it to push the artichoke so it stays under the water, and boil it for like 25-30 minutes. And this is the way we cooked artichokes. Now, when you want to do artichokes bottom, like I have an artichokes bottom here, there is a couple of ways of doing it. You take an artichoke as I have here, and I have already started, and you break it like if you were eating artichokes and pull it out. You see the part that you eat stay there. If I break it and pull down, you see? So you don't lose anything, really. You have to be careful. If you pull too much, look at this. I've taken here that piece, which theoretically, that piece which is eatable here, which belongs right there, you know? So you have to break it, pull down, break it, pull down. There is another way of doing it that I will show you. When you finish doing that, you cut the top. You can retrieve those leaves from the center, which are kind of tender, those here. This you can cook with your artichokes, and you cook that artichoke, you can clean it up a little more around if you want with a vegetable peeler. What I do also with another artichokes, this one is nicer, I cut the end of it and cut it all around with a knife, this way. But that, you need a little more practice. Cut the center. Again, this you can keep. You finish trimming it around, and you have an artichoke's bottom just like I have here, and I keep the tail. Most of the time, the artichokes, after they've been in that position, you cook them in water, as we're going to do today, and I have one cooked here, a bit smaller than this one. What you do, you grab the center of it when it's cooked, and you pull out the whole center of those leaves like this, you see? This is eatable. Now what you've done there, you expose the choke inside. And the choke here with a spoon, you remove that choke. You know, that's no good. This is your classic way. You take this, put it back on top of it. You take a little sprig of parsley. You take that, and this is your classic artichoke vinaigrette, or with a light hollandaise. We don't do hollandaise anymore, but maybe a little bit of vinaigrette to put on top, and that's a terrific first course. And now I'm going to finish the artichokes. You know, the artichoke that I show you there, remember, I take the inside out, I take the choke, and those leaves that I took out of it, very often I will take some part of it, like the bottom part of it, which is tender, and add that to my stuffing along with the tail. I mean, the stem like that, if you cut it, this is perfectly fine. So what we are doing it here, we are mixing that with the stuffing, you know. I have a very simple stuffing here made of chopped onion. You saute a little bit of onion with olive oil, then I put mushroom in it, those little pieces of artichokes, and finally breadcrumb, you know. Don't get it become too gooey, you know. The breadcrumb should be nice and fluffy. So you cook the breadcrumb a little bit with the onion until the bread fry. And when I talk about breadcrumbs, really I'm talking about fresh bread. You take a couple of slices of bread, put it in your food processor. Now notice what I do here. I can put some between the leaves. You know, you finish your stuffing it a bit between the leaf and inside. We have a famous dish in France like that called artichoke, barigoule. Barigoule is the name of the recipe, nothing special. Remember that those artichokes are very high in potassium. What we are doing here, putting them into, I have a cup of water here and a little bit of olive oil. And we're finishing braising it in that mixture. If I have a bit of stuffing, I put it right on top of it here. Basically, by the time we finish cooking, I should have nothing left, you know, in that pot. So that will cook about 20 minutes. We cover it here and let it cook. Now I'm going to start the mussel. Remember, we're doing a French, Belgium type of country menu. The Belgium use mussel with French fry. I have 4 pounds of mussel here. They are all clean. And I will tell you a little more about the mussel later. What I put in those mussel here is some fresh tomato. You know? I put some scallion. I have a lot of different vegetables. I love the color as well as the taste, of course. I have sliced garlic, you know, all clove of garlic sliced like this. Of course, onion, a lot of onion here, and mushroom. I have all of that mixture here, and finally, a bit of olive oil on top of it. I'm putting some white wine in it, and Tabasco. The white wine will, of course, mix with the juice of the mussel and create its own sauce. A bit of Tabasco if you like it hot. You can put the jalapeno peppers or one of those. I like the Tabasco. You want to toss your mussel a little bit. This way, cover it, and start cooking. Actually, when they are cooking, you want to toss them a couple of times. You can bring that across, hold this with your thumb, and toss the mussel this way, you know. That's a good way of doing it. So this has to cook a good 5 minutes. During that time, we want to finish our French fry. Here. Now the oil is very hot, and those pre-cooked French fries, as you saw before, here is where they go into that oil again. Now the oil is about 400 degrees now. You don't want to go too high with the oil either, because you don't want to burn the oil, you know. We use a polyunsaturated type of oil here, which can withstand high temperature, like safflower oil, or peanut oil is a bit heavy, but safflower oil would be very good, or canola oil would be very good too. I want to discuss mussel with you a little more. Now you see that mussel here, there is a beard attached to it here. Usually they are quite clean. Remember that you have to buy your mussel in a reputable place. Don't go and mussel yourself, because a lot of places are polluted now. So in that reputable place, you have your mussel, which are basically clean now. They grow on wire, suspended in water. Yet we pull out that beard. In Greece, you know, they take that beard and wave it to do glove. They give that from daughter to father and so forth, father to son rather, and they use that to go fishing. The knife doesn't go through it. Remember that when you see one of those open, like this one is open, it really doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. Look, if I touch that mussel inside, I touch the mussel here, I touch the inside, and I see that mussel is closing. So it's just opening, you know, to breathe and to get water. It doesn't really necessarily mean that it's bad. Otherwise, if it smells strong, if it's open, then discard it. But touch it a little bit inside to know whether it is alive or it is just, see, this one I think is dead. I would discard it, you know. So this is important. Now those mussels are relatively inexpensive, and they are very good in the protein and all that, so they are nice things to do. Now let's see, our French fries are practically ready now. As you can see, they are nice and brown and crisp. They will cook very fast there, like a minute or so, the real French fry now. As I was saying, when you go to Belgium, they eat French fry every day, or potato in one form or another. When I go to friends of mine which are Belgium, whatever the menu is, there is potato in it. They will tell you about the menu, but there is always potato included. Remember also that in Belgium, we can put a little bit of salt on top of this. In Belgium, the mussel that I did it is a bit different because they don't really put, all of the tomato and stuff that I put in it. Usually they put celery and onion. Now, I have my artichokes here, which are about finished. So we're going to serve our artichokes. Now you can see with our beautiful artichokes here. I'll take a little bit of the juice, oil there, mostly that I put around. If you see this one, I reduced a little too much, you know. You could always add 2 or 3 tablespoons of water that I could have done on top, that on top, and that's it. You eat that like lukewarm, you know. Now I'm going to try the French fries. Now I have my French fry nice and crisp here, you see. And what we have done in those French fries, and I know that there is a lot of calorie in French fry. Remember, I started those French fries and I measure 1.5 tablespoons of oil that I had in there, 1.5 cup of oil rather, not tablespoon that I had to start with. I cooked those mussels I cooked those French fries the first time. I refry them the second time. Then I measure the oil that I use, and I actually had 1.25 cups of oil left over, meaning that in my recipe there, I use 4 tablespoons of oil, which is for 4 people, so it ends up being 1 tablespoon of oil per person, which is relatively little. I mean, if those potatoes I had done a potato salad with it, I will use at least the same amount of oil or more, and so even in a green salad also. So we can dish out. This is cellar style, you know, so very often, sometimes if you want it a bit more fancy, you open the oyster, disregard that part and just serve that half shell. But cellar style, we serve the whole thing together, juice and all. You know, in that way, there is a lot of juice in the bottom here, and you have big portion of mussel here. You eat a lot of this. You know, there is a way of eating it also. In the country, very often, you may take one empty thing like this, and you use that actually to pick up your mussel out of it. Use that other spoon, you know, if you want, or other fork to get it out. So I have my mussel ready here. Maybe a little bit of herb, fresh herb on top of it. And this is the whole menu that we have today. You know, mussels are not that common or that familiar to many people in the country, because even though they are high in protein, very nutritious, you don't get them all over the country. But I want to show you a couple of other dishes that I do with mussel, which are terrific. One of it, which is very classic, is a soup, you know. We call it the bilibi, and it's really done with the stock. Obviously, there's always a lot of stock coming out of it. And you can reduce that, bind it with a little bit of cream if you want. And you do, this is a very, very good stock, maybe the best stock that you can have to do other type of fish soup also. Another thing too, we serve the mussel like this, the whole mussel, sometime in what we call a type of vinaigrette, you know. And the vinegar, a type of dressing, you know, with a lot of onion, vinegar and so forth. And for that, very often we take that strip around here, which is the pan, really, of the mussel, which tend to be a bit elastic and strong. I mean, most of the time, I don't remove it, but if you do a very elegant soup, that's another thing that you can do. And more often than not, those mussels are served on the half shell like that, just blanch. And as I say, when you do this, you keep the juice to do your soup. Then you take your mussel this way, you arrange them, and you can, inside those mussels, if they are small, you can put 2, you know, and you do them just like we do snail in France, escargot, you know, that we call snail. And by putting a little mixture of herbs on top of it, and fresh breadcrumbs. And this is what you can do very easily if you have a small food processor. Fresh breadcrumb makes a big difference, the fresh breadcrumb to the dry one, you know, so I put a little bit of fresh breadcrumb here. I can put some parsley in it. You know, this is flat parsley, but you can have another type of herb if you want, directly with it. And maybe a clove of garlic, you know. Put all of this together. This is really what we call a snail butter. We used to say butter. Now we use much less butter than we used to. But as you can see, that makes a terrific mixture. Actually, that mixture here of fresh breadcrumb with the herb like this, you can use that on a roast of lamb, on a rack of lamb and all that, it's classic. Now often when you put it on lamb, this may dry out on top of this too. So what you do, you moisten it with a little bit of oil. If you wanna. Not much, just enough so that the oil, I mean the breadcrumb doesn't get gooey, but as you can see, it still stays quite fluffy here. But enough so that it browns nicely on top. And that's what you fill up on top of your mussel. Sometimes I like on top of that even to put a little bit of Tabasco. Now you can prepare that way ahead, you know. And after you've prepared it ahead, keep it in the refrigerator. By the time you serve, you put that on the broiler for a couple of minutes. It gets beautifully crusted, and you have another terrific dish with mussel. You know, the caramel custard is really a real French country dessert. Remember, I put it in the oven, tell you it will take like 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the thickness and the type of material you put it in. Now, when it comes out, this is the way it should look like, you know. You can see it is shaking a little bit. It seems that soft shaking, but it is cooked. You can check it by putting a knife into it. If it comes out completely clean here, the eggs are set. So this is what you do, but of course at that point this has to rest. You can even do it overnight. Often that type of dessert is done overnight. And I have one here which has been setting up overnight. So what you do here, you run your knife around. As you see, I hold my knife steady and really pull the mold around rather than the opposite. Then put it on the plate. This is now the time you start frying. And unmold it. Here as it comes, we have the caramel. And as I told you before, you know, if it's overcooked, which is what happened to mine, as the water must have boiled in the oven, I have those little dots here which indicate expansion. It starts expanding, the protein develop and it does. But I'll show you the center and you'll see that in the center it is nice and smooth. See, the center is not just holding enough, and that's what you want. As you see, we just have one egg in there, remember, plus one egg yolk, and our natural caramel sauce around. Sometime in restaurant, you know, they sponge out that type of sauce, do another type of caramel, thicker, that you flavored with rum or cognac or a bit of vanilla, and serve it this way. So we are going to bring that to our meal, to have the whole meal together now. We put that here and recap a little bit what we did today, what we cooked today. We had, remember, the stuffed artichokes here. I also have the plain artichokes, you know, with the little thing put back on top of it. This is the plain artichoke, which is 50 calories. Of course, the stuffed artichokes is going to be more caloric with the bread and a little bit of olive oil, but it's still quite nice. You can see we have used no butter here in any of the dish. I have the mussel rather French style, if you want, with all kind of vegetable, mushroom around, tomato, and so forth. Finally, our French fry. And remember the French fry, the way we did them there, we use 1 tablespoon of oil per portion of French fried, because we started with 1.5 cups of oil, we finished with 1 1/4 for 4 portions, which is 4 tablespoons. And done this way, those French fries will be about 275 calories, which is not that much. Finally, the caramel custard here, done with 1 egg and 1 egg yolk for 4, will be about 120 calories. So that's quite a low-calorie type of dessert. Or we always have a nice salad with it, you know, add fiber, add color to the dish. And maybe with this, a nice glass of Beaujolais. This is a Gourmet Beaujolais from the Napa Valley, which I love. It's nice and very live with a strong taste of berry. I think it would go very well with it. I hope you're going to do our Belgian French country meal and enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed preparing it for you. Happy cooking!